Greetings, students. Mr. Little here, and today we're going to have a look at an image-based SAQ that is part of Chapter 27 or is connected to material that could be found in Chapter 27, that is the Islamic Empires in South Asia, the Middle East, parts of Europe, and North Africa, as well as South and Southeast Asia. So today we're going to have a look at this image-based SAQ, and what we have here is a textile from South Asia that was imported into Europe in the early 1700s. It depicts English East India Company officials living in South Asia. So if we have a look at this, we can see it's clearly very pretty. There's a depiction of flowers, there's a depiction of animals, and we knew this was a common motif to be seen in South Asian textiles historically. It's also one of the reasons why they were so in demand in Europe for their pretty colors that made them beautiful to look at. But in this case, we have a unique thing. We sort of have these British East India Company officials, with maybe they're in a house of some sort. But they look like they're drinking tea or maybe playing cards. They're having a good time somehow. And so this SAQ is based on this image of a textile that was created in South Asia, but it looks like it was imported into Europe. Perhaps it was designed to be brought into Europe. But let's have a look at the questions. So these two questions that go with this SAQ are the following. Explain how this document illustrates economic change in international trade in the era of 1450 to 1750. And explain one 19th century development that would impact the supply of items such as this. So the first question looks like it's sticking to units 3 and 4, and it's asking about international trade, changes, meaning new things in this era of international trade. The second question, a 19th century development. So this is something that you'll see on SAQs occasionally, where they will ask about something that comes afterwards, right? And so in this case, it expects that you've already gone through the entire course. And so you have an okay understanding of what comes afterwards, what happens in the 19th century that could have impacted the supply of this item. So this is an item made in South Asia and shipped to Europe. So something that happened in the 19th century that affected the supply of this item. So we want to think a little bit about that. So this question A in particular sticks to unit 3 and 4, and this question B actually goes to unit 5 and 6. So this is something you might see on SAQs. They might ask you to look ahead or think ahead. So when thinking about what is an economic change in unit 3 and unit 4 that could be represented by this textile, the thing that jumps to my mind almost right away is the formation of the English East India Company and its kind of rival counterpart, the Dutch East India Company, both in the 1600s. And these companies were new, relatively speaking. Historically, there had not been joint stock companies going out and doing trading. Like historically, we'd always had kingdoms setting up trading posts along the coast. Posts along the coast, it rhymes, that's how you can remember it. So that's the one thing that jumps to my mind really quickly. But they also could be talking about early British control of India. Now, we got to keep in mind the British Raj, or full British rule over India, does not begin until 1857. But that didn't mean that the East India Company wasn't taking control of certain parts of South Asia at the time. In particular, in the mid-1700s, Bengal, which is where many beautiful textiles were produced, like this one, was under the control of, or at least the influence of, the British East India Company. So there could be something up there. And then also during units 3 and 4, we see the general sort of takeover of Indian Ocean trade away from the natives and into the hands of Europeans. And it sort of begins with the Portuguese and their Cartasa system, and then sort of accumulates with the rise of the Dutch and the British East India Company, to the point where any large, long distance trade is by the end of the 1700s being conducted by European or European trading companies, almost without exception. So there's that. So it could be any of those. I think I'm leaning towards the East India Company one, but we'll see. The second one, when it's asking about events that are going to come after 1750 that would impact the supply of a textile, probably a cotton textile. There's a whole plethora of possibilities, right? The Industrial Revolution, which is going to happen in Britain, could make this more easily available, could make textiles easily available and make the demand for South Asian textiles not as much. Perhaps the British takeover of South Asia, takeover of India in 1857 could impact supply, make it easier to get things to British markets or European markets. Maybe the rise of Egyptian cotton manufacturing in the under Mehmet Ali in the late 1800s could have impacted the supply, because if they can get cotton textiles from Egypt, that's much closer than India. So maybe that's what we're aiming at. Also, there were some small conflicts with France in the 1800s, mostly the Napoleonic era, that would have definitely disrupted the supply of shipping and trade to the European continent. There's also the possibility of the Suez Canal, which was opened in the late 1800s and made it much, much easier to transport goods between South Asia and Europe, because the Suez Canal cuts through parts of Egypt. And so instead of having to go all the way around Africa, you just sail through the Mediterranean and then cut through the Red Sea, and you're basically at South Asia. So any of those really could work. But what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause the video, go ahead and take a crack at this and see if you can go ahead and write an SAQ, and then come back and we'll look at some of the things that I wrote. So I hope you had a chance to give it a shot yourself. And what I've got here is my particular responses to this SAQ. And you might have written something different, but keep in mind that we always want to go for those 3 to 4 sentence SAQs, keeping it short, keeping it sweet, because you do have a lot of other writing to do. And following ACE, answer, cite, explain, just so we keep our thoughts in line and keep our thoughts organized. So if we look at question A, which asked about new economic forms or new international trade, I decided to go with the East India Company, specifically the joint stock companies, because this was a new thing in world history, right? So I said that this textile represents the rise of joint stock trading companies in world history. Joint stock trading companies such as the English East India Company, founded in the 1600s, have trading flexibility that was greater than trading post empires of the earlier days, such as that of Portugal, as they were not directly controlled by their governments. And that's one of the things that joint stock companies are known for. This textile depicts English East India Company workers in India, in South Asia, meaning that by the time it was made in the early 1700s, mid 1700s, clearly the East India Company had a great deal of influence in South Asia. And this is a testament to their success and the rise of this new form of economic exchange. And so I thought that one was the easiest. And so that's the one I went ahead and went for. On the B side, picking an event, I decided to go with the Suez Canal. Thought that'd be really interesting. So my answer is the Suez Canal. Then I'm going to talk about the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal was built through Egypt in the late 1800s and connected the Indian Ocean to Europe more directly. This connection and ease of access would make it easier to get textiles like this one from India to Britain or to Europe in general, thus lowering the price and increasing the demand, meaning that more would have to be brought in and purchased. And so this was my approach to this particular SAQ. Again, if you chose to go a different direction, that's okay. As one of my colleagues likes to say, there's many ways to skin this cat. But I hope this helped and gave you a little bit of practice with an SAQ. I'm glad that you joined me. My name is Mr. Little, and I'll see you next time.